Congratulations on starting your Paint Bid Ninja journey. In today's video, we're going to cover the settings portion of the software. So this is a very important system that you'll need to update from the day one before you start using the software. So we'll go through it tab by tab so you can essentially get everything in order and you can start quoting right away. I will show you that there is a getting started page. So you can make sure that all of these are checked off before you start using this on site. Starting from left to right, we're going to go through all of the different setting pages. Now, number one, we have personal information. So this is important to fill out so that each and every quote that you send will have the information, your information, so that the customer can easily see that and reach out to you as needed. Moving over to the organization page. This is also important for the same reason. And it's important that you upload a good copy of your logo so that that shows up at the top of your documents. So just take a look through that. Some of this information does get pulled through when you sign up, but just make sure that it looks right and fill out anything that's left over. This is where you can add to your team and review your subscription. And then this is a very important tab. Now, you'll notice that in every single quote on your review page, which we'll see later, you'll be able to change these settings on a local basis. However, this is where you change it on a global basis. So if you change it on a local basis, it will impact only that quote. If you change it here globally, it will impact all future quotes. So it won't impact any quotes that you've already done before you've changed it. It will only impact any quotes going forward. So what we'll do is we'll go through each of these boxes and I'll explain how you should input the right information to those boxes. So in the painting business, we typically recommend to our customers, and I'm a painting contractor as well, so to target a 50% gross profit. So that is going to be important when you're figuring out how much your hourly rate should be. So what we recommend is figuring out what your average labor rate cost is. So the average hourly rate you pay your laborers used to calculate projected labor costs and gross profit. So this is, if you have employees, you add up all your employees, and let's say you have 10 employees, you divide your total labor costs after all the taxes that you pay on those labor hours, and then you divide by the 10 employees. That will give you your average labor cost or average labor rate here. Now, if you have subcontractors, it's a little bit more difficult to understand, but it should still be thought of in a similar fashion. So what that means is that you're going to look at, let's say if you've never quoted anything before, you're going to look at still at least subcontracting that project so that you will generate at least a 50% gross profit. Now, sometimes certain companies, if they haven't sort of positioned themselves fully into a 50% gross profit, they'll have to work their way up there. But you can kind of experiment with that and sort of find out where you're going to have to start. But it's important to understand roughly how long you think a job that you've subcontracted in the past should have taken, and then look at how much you've subcontracted in the past. So let's say you gave a subcontractor $2,000 for a job, and you know yourself, because you're in the business, that that job should take 4 days for, let's say, 2 people. And then you're going to want to do this over a few different jobs and a few different subcontractors. You're just going to want to do the math. So let's say that, hey, I can get that job done, in, let's say, 4 days for 2 people. So we're going to say 4 working days. That's 4 times 8 is 32, times by 2 people. So 64 hours. And we're going to take that 2,000 divided by 64. This is just an example. So you gave them $2,000 labor only subcontract, and you know that job takes about 4 days for 2 people. So based on that, you're going to take that 2,000, you're going to divide by that 64 hours that you think it should take, and you're going to know approximately, okay, the subcontractor was happy with that. Most of my subcontractors are about happy with that. Therefore, I'm paying them $31.25 per hour. So look at those numbers historically and figure out, if you're only running subcontractors, that's how you can kind of figure out what your average labor rate is. And then again, if you're targeting that 50% gross profit, it's as simple as doubling that. So in this example, 2,000 divided by 64 is 31.25, and we're going to multiply that by 2, and then that's our hourly rate. And you can even round up a little bit, so let's say 65. Okay, so we've covered the hourly rate and the labor cost. If you have any other questions about that, you can email me. Now, regarding the second coat savings. So this, I've seen people do it differently, but what we recommend doing is we recommend considering that any subsequent coats over and above a first coat will take only 3/4 of the time of the first coat. So what that looks like is 75%. And that actually applies in this case to not only your labor, but it applies to your paint product usage as well. Just absorbs a little bit less on subsequent coats than it does usually on a first coat. So that's the reason for that. Your miscellaneous materials multiplier. This is what we recommend again, but you can obviously adjust this globally here. This is essentially your sundries. So any tape, plastic, any usable materials that you're going to be going through on a project, even brushes to a certain degree. Now, what this is going to do is the price that you charge for paint, and that's going to be marked up again, but the price that you charge for paint, it'll take that price and it's going to apply a 15% multiple of that price that you're charging on that given job. And it's going to add that in for sundries. Now, you can have this be different locally on your templates for different jobs, but this is what's going to be informing your global settings. Okay, so just your global settings of your company. So we recommend 15%. That's worked well. Now, miscellaneous labor multiplier, that's going to be your setup and cleanup. So any labor that's outside of your typical on the production rate labor, where you're brushing and rolling, or you're cutting in, trim, whatever you're doing, this is over and above that. So it's setup and cleanup is the best way to think about it. And then any deposits you require and any taxes that you charge on top of your price get inputted here. So once you're done that, you can save it. Okay, and estimate templates. I mean, you can edit your estimate templates here, document templates. So estimate templates are the whole process from beginning to document creation to everything. You can house the whole thing inside of an estimate template, and you can edit those here, and you can create templates for different types of jobs. You can load different documents, and this is where you can edit your document templates. And then within documents, you have different sections that incorporate or that add to a document, and you can create templates based off of those different document sections. And this is where you can come and edit those document templates. Let's say, for example, you had a paint product PDF that you wanted to add in, or some kind of other marketing PDF that you wanted to add in, and you wanted to have the ability to add that to any document, then this is where you're going to either create or edit existing ones. Quick snippets is a feature that you can use in any long form anytime you're typing anything out, you can certainly have different quick snippets where you can just click a button and it will add the same amount of text that you want. So you can come here, you can add new ones, and you can edit existing ones. Surfaces and rates. So again, your software will come preloaded with different surfaces and rates. And here's where you can review those, and you can apply those either to exterior only, interior only, or both. Now, on your setup page, when you're creating a quote, you can also just select both. So it'll show all of your interior and all of your exterior anyway. Prep services. So prep services is where you can edit. You can see here, this is where you edit. And you can look at editing the actual description that the service has that will show up on the contract and or the work order. And that will, of course, be very important to making sure that you have the most automation possible. So having your prep services dialed in terms of the actual wording that you're going to be showing. Paint products are also very important. So chances are you're reusing the same paint products probably over and over and over. So it's going to be important that you make sure that your pricing is diligently put here. So this is important, again, to make sure that you're targeting the gross profit percentage that you want. You're looking at your costs for that product, and you're, let's say, doubling if you're trying to hit that 50% gross profit. Equipment and consumables. This is what you're going to be able to have show up on your review page when you make sure that your work order has all the materials that your crew will need. So very important that you have a list of equipment that you typically use so that you can quickly add that into a project. And then that way the crew, let's say a sub crew or even your in-house crew, knows exactly what to grab from your storage or what have you in order to show up at the job with everything they need on day one. And last but not least, integrations. So you'll see that we have two integrations, one with Company Cam, so you can take your photos in Company Cam and import them directly into your documents. Or with Zapier, you can do endless amounts of things with PaintBid. So if you need help with that, do get in touch with us. So that's the overview of the settings page. There's a lot to do here. And of course, it's going to keep getting easier and easier to import new things. Do get in touch with us with any questions. Otherwise, looking forward to bringing you into the second video, and we're going to go into even more detail of the software.